This video covers the IGCSE Biology Objective 8.3.4 on the 2025 CAIE syllabus to explain how water loss is related to large internal surface area of leaves. So let's first talk about the adaptations that relate to this particular objective. So in the leaf, we have two adaptations that we want to consider. Number one, the air spaces that are in the spongy mesophyll layer. And number two, the stomata, those openings between the guard cells of the lower epidermis of the leaf. And there are many stomata. Obviously, we just have two pictured here, but there are many of those. And then we have those air spaces that create that spongy effect that we mentioned in previous videos when we talked about the structure of a leaf. So how do these adaptations relate to water loss? Well, let's consider. First of all, we have the air spaces. So having air spaces means that there's a large surface area of wet cells which can evaporate into the air as water vapor. So in the spongy layer, those spongy cells are basically all separated from each other. They're not packed tightly as in the palisade section. So what that means is that the entire surface of the cell is exposed to these air spaces, and so the entire surface of the cell can be covered with water molecules. And so all of those water molecules can evaporate into the air spaces as water vapor. And so because of that, we have an increased rate of evaporation, which is going to affect the overall transpiration of the plant. So if the cells were closely packed together, we would only have small portions of those cells actually exposed to the air spaces, and therefore there would be less surface area, and therefore there would be less evaporation of those water molecules into water vapor. So by having those air spaces and the cells spread out, we have more surface area for that process to happen. The second thing we have there are the stomata. So when the stomata are open, the water vapor can diffuse out very easily from the leaf. This is going to reduce the water potential in the airspace, and that's now going to cause more water to evaporate because of water potential gradient between the airspace and the surface of the cells, or the xylem, or the whole entire water potential gradient structure from the xylem out through into the atmosphere. So having the stomata open is also going to affect the evaporation of the water molecules from the surface of the spongy mesophyll cells. And in a previous section, I believe it was in plant nutrition, we talked about how the stomata opens and closes. What is it that affects the guard cells and causes them to open and close, and how the structure of the guard cell with the thicker cell wall towards the stomata area is going to affect the opening and closing. So if you need to just review how that works, please do go back to that video. It was in Unit 7. So let's talk about this whole concept of transpiration pull. The roots are going to have minerals and water that are going to be absorbed into the roots via osmosis and travel through the xylem and the stem up to the leaves and evaporate and diffuse out. So transpiration is able to occur due to these specific adaptations that we've mentioned, the airspace and the stomata. And this is going to create this transpiration pull, which is a force of pulling in the xylem from the root all the way to the leaf. It's just one continuous pull. This is now going to affect the water potential gradient of the entire plant from the point of diffusion of the water molecules through the stomata down to the root hair cell that is absorbing the water molecules from the soil. So it's one continuous pull, and so this force is called transpiration pull.